Everyone loves Pokemon. It's no doubt that the main series and the franchise in general has captivated our hearts for so many years, but when do we ever talk about the spin-off games? I feel like Pokemon as a franchise has a bunch of amazing spin-off games. I'm Abel from Nintendo Friends, and today we're going to talk about my top 5 favorite Pokemon spin-off games. So to kick off the list, I want to pick a game that doesn't have a lot of substance to it, but it's got so much character, and that is the original Pokemon Snap for the N64. So basically, the plot of this game is you're taking pictures of Pokemon, and that's pretty much it, but it's a really fun game. You get to explore the different Pokemon and you see them in 3D, which was pretty new back in the day, and it's a whole new perspective of Pokemon, and I think it's cool seeing them in their natural habitat. So, love the game, give it a try. It's on Nintendo Switch Online. Number 4, the new Pokemon Snap. So I was a little hesitant on putting this one on the list too, but I feel like it does deserve it because they did do a major upgrade with the original Pokemon Snap just in terms of the graphics, and of course adding all the amazing Pokemon. So there's so many different Pokemon from all the different regions that you can take pictures of in their natural habitat, of course. And it's beautiful. It's amazing, man. The graphics are awesome. The water looks so pretty, and I just dig it so much. So I gotta have it on the list. It definitely won up the original Pokemon Snap in my mind. Moving on, number 3 is a game that we don't really hear of a lot often, but I wanted to add it on this list because I love it so much, and that is Pokemon Colosseum for the GameCube. This game is really cool, and it was one of the first times Nintendo really allowed Pokemon to just dive into a whole different play style and a whole different storyline in general. And I think it's great. The story is great. The characters are awesome. The Pokemon, the whole battling system is really cool and intuitive. And I think overall, Pokemon Colosseum is a game that doesn't get as much love as it actually deserves. So if you haven't already, please try it out. I implore you to try it out. It's an amazing game. So, number 2 now. Number 2, I decided to pick Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 for the N64. Now, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 are amazing games. There's just so much awesome stuff that they did with allowing Pokemon to be in 3D again, because this is something that we had never seen up to this point. But just so many amazing things about those games. The mini games, people, the mini games are so cool. I remember being a kid and just being so invested in the different little mini games. The Magikarp one where you bounce the floppy Magikarps. It's just a whole lot of fun, and the multiplayer and being able to do the whole story mode, going through the gym leaders and, you know, eventually getting to the end and stuff like that. It's just a great game, and it keeps you invested, and it's cool seeing all the Pokemon and their different animations. And so yeah, I gotta have it on number 2 because it deserves it. Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. So before we get to the number 1 pick, I did have a runner-up or a kind of honorable mention that I just wanted to state before we get to the number 1 spot. I really wanted to add it to the list, but I just felt like Pokemon Snap took the cake just a little bit more. But that game is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red and Blue. I got these games when I was a kid for my GBA. I love that game. Being able to actually play as a Pokemon is something that I never thought I would get to experience. And around that time was when I was really starting to dive into the whole Pokemon world. So being able to play as a Pokemon, being able to interact with other Pokemon, and just the whole battling system and everything, I think it's really cool. Something that I wish Nintendo would experiment more with, because we haven't had a really solid Mystery Dungeon game in a while. And I know we have the remakes on the Switch, but again, another sequel would be amazing. But I don't know, maybe I'm asking for too much, but I know I would really love to see that. So again, I wanted to have it as a runner-up on this list, or an honorable mention, before I get to the number 1 spot. And now for the number 1 spot, I have Pokemon Legends Arceus. Or Arceus, whatever you want to say. To each his own. Pokemon Legends Arceus, I cannot express just how big of a leap that must have been for Nintendo to do. I know it was a huge leap for the fans, and I know there was a lot of people who were really hesitant. It was definitely a Breath of the Wild level going out of left field, but it worked. In my opinion, it worked. I know there are some fans who are not really into the game, but I think it worked. I think it's great. I think the dialogue is great. I think the music is great. I think the animation is good. I think it definitely can be improved upon, and I think it will be improved upon. And I have a lot of faith in this Legends series in general, and to see what Nintendo is going to do with it. But as far as like being the first of this whole spin-off series, the Legends series, I think it was a great introduction to this, and I'm really excited for what Nintendo has in store. So for number one, I gotta say, I really loved it. It was a breath of fresh air. I think it also showed that Nintendo's really willing to experiment with this franchise, which is great because main series games are amazing, and again, like I said at the beginning of the video, they have a special place in our hearts. But I think Nintendo really ought to explore these different avenues for Pokemon in these spin-off games. So I really love it. I think it's awesome, and I encourage you guys to give it a try too if you haven't already. But on a side note, I want to mention before I end the video here that yes, there can be negative things that we can say about all of these games, right? Whether it be the graphical limitations of the time, or whether it be the story not being that cohesive, or maybe there not being a lot of substance to the game, and it, whether it's just taking pictures of Pokemon and that's it, right? Each one of these games has their faults, but honestly, here at Nintendo Friends, we really want to just try to focus on the positive aspects of these games, because regardless how flawed they may be, they still meant something to our childhoods and to, even our adulthoods as well. So whether you're an adult or a kid who's watching the video, if you've experienced these games, and even though you might have disliked some aspects of it, I'm sure it still resonated with you being a Pokemon fan or just being a video game fan in general. So I really want to focus on the positive aspects of these games and what they've done for us as a whole. That being said, you can follow us on all of our social media. Links will be below. Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, we got it all. We'd love to hear about you guys, and comment in the video below. What are some of your favorite Pokemon spin-off games? I'd love to hear it, and I'd love to get some interesting input on some games that maybe I didn't add to the list, that I might have forgotten about. We'll see. So, until then, we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.